Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Cannoli. This is a follow-up to the last episode where we did the best Intercontinental Champions, probably the greatest. This is probably the greatest design in company history right here. The classic IC belt over here. And on this one, we're actually going to do the top 5 world WWF world champions on this episode. So, like I said, follow up to the last one. And we're going in the same order as last time. I think we're oddly enough wearing the same clothes we wore last time too.
That's odd.
It's almost like we filmed it on the same day.
Right on the same. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but this was filmed back in the 80s and 90s because you said WWF. Remember?
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. WWF.
Well,
exactly.
We filmed this
Get
in the
F
70s because it's a WWF.
Right.
This is
Get
a video
the F
about
out this time, right?
The best World Wildlife Foundation champion.
Exactly. The Panda Bear Championship.
It's the World Federation.
Exactly. The Worldwide Federation.
All right. I'm the guy.
Yep. We're going in the same order as last time. So, Campo, we're going to start off with your number 5.
All right. This was hard, and I didn't want to have a caps, but I'm going to caps it anyways because there's one person that I feel like if he's not mentioned on this list, I'm just going to be upset. So, it's a Macho Man and Bruno San Martino.
Ooh.
I feel like if you don't have Bruno on a list, it's just something is wrong. And on the off chance that someone doesn't have him, at least he's been mentioned.
Yeah.
Longest run ever.
Yep.
That's kind of how I did my number 5. But
2,000 plus days.
2 separate.
Probably one of the greatest Italian-American athletes of all time.
Hey!
Hey, Paisan!
All right, Skippy Doo, give us your number 5.
All right. So number 5 is probably gonna be the only wild card because number 4 through 1 are basically cold cut from like Google.
4 to 1 is Goldberg.
Yeah, right. Actually, did he even get WWE championship?
Yeah,
he did
multiple times.
I had no idea. Well, guess what? You'd be surprised. He's not on my list. Anyway, my number 5 is actually the wild card. It is Mankind.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Two
fair
times,
enough.
right?
Yeah.
2 times.
All right.
Yeah, probably one of the bloodiest matches of all time.
That's exactly why he had to come on my list.
All right, Scrappy Doo.
My number 5, and this is just for me to give him some sort of credit, is Hulk. But other than that, it's just, I kind of grew out of it afterwards. Like I was a big fan of his before, but now it's like, it's like okay. But
He's become now Hulk is just a parody of himself.
Yeah, but because his run was so important for the company,
That's funny.
I guess I'm gonna have to give him some sort of recognition. But yeah,
He's an honorable mention. He's not in my top 5 because I never liked Hulk.
yeah, it was a tough one.
Yeah. My number 5 Caps is your favorite, and that's Triple H. The reason why he's right. The reason why he's number 5 is he carried that belt in a time when the company really didn't have that contender until the person who's number 4 on my list came along and really shined in what he could do after leaving a certain group and becoming a singles competitor.
I should just make clear that, I'm sure the guy's a nice guy in real life. Just freaking hate his character. I'm sorry.
His character, I agree with that. His character was never the greatest character, but he, like I said, he carried I know he just wanted to beat Ric Flair's run, but he carried the company in those early 2000s when they're really, after Rock was gone, Stone Cold was always injured. Who did you really have?
I stopped watching.
Well, that's what I mean. Orton was too young at the time. Batista was still green at the time. Like, you really, Shawn Michaels was gone because he lost his smile or something. Like, you really had nobody.
That's why I started watching SmackDown more.
Respect me.
That's why I started watching SmackDown more.
Okay.
Right?
Anyways, I'm done with you. I'm going on to my number 4. So, yes, favorite, possibly ever. Definitely favorite ever, but in terms of being a champion, like once again, I base this list on a combination of what do I like and what really matters. And number 4 is The Rock.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
That's it.
Okay. Well, for my number 4, I'm actually going with what Cap said. Same situation. I grew up with him, loving him and everything, but they got older. But I feel like I had to put him on someone's list, so Hulk Hogan got number 4 on my list. I said it's gonna be. You're gonna see my list and like, dude, this is what people are gonna be googling. It's cookie cutter so bad. I hate to say it, but it's true. You'll see when you get the top 3 too. So
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm right now. I'm thinking about switching out Hulk. Even though we're
put in Triple H.
Well, I now that you said that too, I kind of want to do the same thing. Like I'm looking, I'm like, dude, even Sergeant Slaughter gets that spot more than Hogan.
It's like, anyway, my number 4 is Austin.
Yeah, no, great pick. My number 4 is Edge, the rated R superstar. You know, Edge.
He had an entertaining route.
He had an entertaining run. He proved that a guy who he didn't have to be this jacked up musclehead to be champion.
But he was
a smaller guy, right?
He did a great job of differentiating himself from the tag team and building his own legacy, where Christian, when he went solo, his whole identity was just trying to stop Edge.
Well, he also left the company for a while because he couldn't live in Edge's shadow anymore, and he went over to Impact Wrestling.
Yeah. Well, see, that was what hurt me about the whole thing of Edge. Is I was so happy because we had the trifecta in my eyes. It was the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and then Edge and Christian. And then Edge started going solo, and I liked that he was bad. He was a good bad guy. He was a good champion. But he did so well in the hating that I literally did hate him. So, and it's because he did so well at it. So that's the only reason why he's not on. I don't put him on the list. But he's definitely an honorable mention. So yeah.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
All right. So, it's me, right?
No, it's Caps, isn't it? Oh no. I just went with Edge. Yeah.
Okay. So let's crack open the wine with these cannolis because we're gonna be here for a while on this conversation. So at number 3, I have Hulk Hogan, and I think, for the fact that you put Triple H on your list, but then don't have Hogan, and the fact that you, for some reason, want to take Hogan off your list is kind of weird to me. I mean, it is favorites, so I'm okay with that. But when you look back now in 2021, you have these feelings. In the early 90s and the late 80s, there was nothing cooler than Hulk Hogan, and you didn't know that he was booking himself to win. You didn't know that he was refusing it. You just thought he was an unstoppable force and he was the coolest thing ever. And I'm not sticking up for him.
You didn't know that he was a racist piece of garbage.
Yeah, but I mean but most of them probably are. We don't know anything really, especially nowadays. Their lives are hidden, and when they reveal things, they get canceled out of WWE.
Yeah, just look at Ric Flair.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying I think he's a great wrestler, this and that, but if you're gonna treat it like he wasn't important into what the championship meant, he's literally he's still to this day basically the face of WWE champion.
I mean, I can agree to that. I can totally agree to that.
I get that people don't like him. He's not here because he's my favorite. He's here because
that's understandable.
And I do think at the time, as a kid, before I got older, like even all the way until I stopped wrestling, I didn't learn about this stuff until I kind of came back recently about how he was. He was always I liked him. He wasn't my favorite. It was always Macho Man at that time, but I'm not going to deny Hogan, the same way I wouldn't deny Triple H. I believe that I don't like Triple H, but he was a title holder forever.
Yeah,
but that's
and he booked himself to hold the title forever, so we're not going to hate him for.
We're not going to exactly. It's the same idea, except one of it happened in the 80s, and the other one happened in the early 2000s. So I can agree to that too. Like I said, for me, I never had that affinity to Hogan, even as a kid. So for me, it was never I was not entertained by Hogan. I wanted
like Macho Man over Hogan any day. But when I'm looking at a list where it's based on a combination of what do I like and what is really good, I feel like Hogan is better as a champion than Macho Man was.
Yeah, that he had a solid 7-year run with that belt.
I mean,
like
he sucked.
He did.
I'm sorry. I have to. My argument to that is there were so many other good wrestlers that deserve a title run. This is partly the reason why I'm starting to have a different outlook on Hogan. And the other reason is that why does Hogan seem to have this feeling, or whatever the case may be, to no sell other wrestlers' finishers? It just bugs me. I mean, like,
I agree.
everybody else like works hard just as much as Hogan.
Yeah.
Everybody else sells for everybody else's finishers. What makes Hogan so different to like?
But if you look
So,
at
like, for example, I just
go.
want one example.
go.
Savage versus Hogan, WrestleMania 4. Everybody goes down to one top rope elbow from Savage. Why is it that Hogan must kick out of 3 top rope elbows? You know what I mean?
Because it's Hogan.
It's one of those little things.
But,
That is
okay,
like,
so
why? Or
let me
Piper.
give you a thing. I'm not disagreeing with you at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying you're talking about the guy that we consider superhuman. He lifted Andre the Giant. He's unstoppable. He never loses. He does whatever it takes to win. He seems like the craziest person. So to have Macho Man come in and beat him with one elbow, like kayfabe would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no way you were going to let Hogan go down to one elbow.
But he kicked out from 3.
Yeah,
I get it.
I think that's and to counterpoint that, I think that's what made that WrestleMania 6 match so entertaining, is because Hogan was no selling Warrior, but Warrior was no selling Hogan too.
Yeah, and if
like Hogan does that leg drop, Warrior just stands right up like, "Yo, what are you going to do about it?"
Towards the end of it, Hogan was starting to become selfish Hogan. Okay,
Yeah,
but we know that now. When you watch those matches, then you weren't thinking, "Oh, he kicked out." You're like, "Holy crap, he kicked out 3 times."
No, but the other thing is that McMahon, I think, to me, McMahon actually got smart and realized that, hey, Hogan's running through everybody. Like, who's left?
I got nobody left. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to go look for somebody else.
But
to
that's
take
where
over.
they
And that's the reason why I respect Piper, because Piper had the had the balls to say, "No, you're not going to beat me. I'm the number 1 heel. Why would I allow you to beat me?"
Yeah,
Like, You know what I
yeah.
mean? So sorry, I'm just.
But I mean, and essentially,
Well, you have
McMahon
him
tried
on
to
your
do the
list.
exact same thing with John Cena, and John Cena's probably not on anybody's list.
No,
Well,
hell no.
No, no.
Right?
Piper would have been on my list if he actually won the damn title, but thanks to Hogan, it didn't
I mean, there's a
happen.
few people that probably would have made
Yeah.
my list, but I mean, in fairness, I do agree, and I think we'll get into this at the end, but
Yeah.
I think you do have Hogan on your list, and you do think that he does belong there. So I mean, in fairness, regardless of how we feel about the guy, he does arguably, at least he's on 2 people's list, maybe also Putty's.
Maybe
Well, I've
he
already-
was.
I've said
It's
that.
on 3
he
people's
was?
list.
Yeah,
Okay,
number
so
4.
then
The only
you're
one,
shocked.
full disclosure, he's not on my list, only because, like I said, growing up, yes, I understand what he meant to the company, but growing up, I was never a Hogan fan. I was always with the heels.
But he,
For me,
he
I was
did
always
have this aura of like superhumanness that
Yes, he
everyone
did.
liked.
But every time Hogan wrestled, I always wanted to see Hogan lose. I don't know what it was. I just wanted to watch him lose.
You still wanted to
I
watch
wanted to see
Hogan.
something different.
But yes, agreed.
Shit.
But back then, as a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, even though I wasn't aware to the business at the time, there was just something about Hogan I just didn't like.
Yeah, I would say it's the 90s Hogan that bothered me more than anything.
See, I liked Hogan's run as
Head got big.
but I mean the first run of the NWO run when he
and
first
then
won that,
after when it got so ridiculous that he
and the finger poke of doom, and like,
Anyways,
let me jump in here and say this. I've been
Okay,
trying
go.
to jump in to say this, okay? For one of the people that actually fell for the whole hype of Hogan, when saw No Holds Barred in theaters, like I was in that hype train, okay? Here's my thing. You got to think he also was a big part of NWO as well, and we've talked about that in the past. You know what I mean? We have to give him credit where credit is due. But the reason he's so low on my list as
the episode a few weeks ago with the factions list.
Exactly. But the reason why he's so low on my list as well is because I want to give him that recommendation. But like you'll see my next 3 people, when I think of wrestling, I think of these 3 people, and you name these 3 people, and they go, "Oh yeah, I know who that is. He's a wrestler." And that's my whole point. Hogan had that for the longest time and still has it to this day. But the next 3 people I have on my list, I would say deserved it more than he did, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and
I
that's the
agree.
reason why I state that I put him in number 4, because once you hear my 3, you're like, okay, now I see what you're saying, because they're iconic. They're iconic 3 wrestlers that everyone knows about. When you name them, you say, oh yeah, he's a wrestler. And we'll get to that, which
is now your number 3 now, buddy.
Oh, is it? Okay, well then my number 3 is The Undertaker. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like when you name off the Undertaker, you know he's involved with wrestling.
Yeah.
He's huge. And that's my point. Undertaker and the next two wrestlers I have literally took Hogan out of the spotlight and said, no, other people can be as big as Hogan as well.
Undertaker took Hogan out and then immediately got taken back.
Yes. So
Well, yeah,
my
but-
counterpoint to the Undertaker was his gimmick was so big, he never needed the belt.
Yeah.
Because
But
his
I was
gimmick
so
was
happy
so
when he did.
over.
Oh.
And really, he only had what,
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 title runs, Undertaker? It's not like he had a lot.
But
And they weren't
he
meaningful
still got
He
runs.
didn't need it. It's
He
like what
didn't
we
need
said.
it.
Who else were we saying in the other video that was just so? Oh, Jake the Snake.
Jake the
He
Snake.
was so over. He didn't need
a
it.
belt. And the
But-
thing is, the Undertaker's character was so over. For him, his championship was the streak. That undefeated
Mhm.
streak at
Yeah,
WrestleMania.
WrestleMania.
So
yeah.
that belt really was never needed for him because he had that something that nobody now can take away from him, that undefeated streak at WrestleMania.
But see, I still
I
had to
would
give it
agree
to him
with all
just
that.
because of love. You know what I mean? I had to put
Yeah.
him on there, and that's why I said number 3, not number 1, because he would have got
Yeah.
number 1 if he held it longer. So sorry.
I want to touch base on that because yes, he didn't need it, but he needed to get recognized. He deserved it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
Yeah, he did.
That's
He needed
Undertaker's
like
recognition.
he's probably one of the greatest performers of all time, like one of
Listen.
the greatest gimmicks of all time.
I just
Yeah.
want to get in on Undertaker here because I think he's one of the most protected wrestlers of all time in terms of the fact
Until
that
recently.
even when he loses, even when he can lose multiple matches in a row, he has that I'm going to sit up. I'm unkillable. No one can kill me.
Mm.
Even if I lose, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna beat you up. And that's always been the Undertaker's thing. You can't really ever defeat him. He can't die. He's immortal.
Look at it this
right?
way. Look at it this way. When he was a bad guy, people loved him. Even when he went and changed into the whole biker look with the whole,
American Badass.
Yeah, the American Badass.
Fred
People
Durst.
still loved him. Like even when he did those changes, there was so much love for him. Of course, we wanted the old Undertaker back after being in the Fred Durst, rolling thing so long, but still, there was so much love for him that it was like that's the reason why I felt like even if he didn't have it that long, I just had to at least find some place on the list.
He's
for him.
still a good choice.
And that's an excellent choice. Like I'm saying, we're not disagreeing. We're just providing counterpoints and
I get it.
opinions, right?
I was that's the reason I'm just putting it out there because I wanted to make sure everyone's aware that's watching this, just in general, that when he would play the bad guy, he was loved. And there's sometimes bad guys that are really good at being bad guys get booed. Like he was one of those wrestlers that never would get booed. You know what I mean?
That means you're not playing a bad guy very well.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's the point. He was a good.
It was
bad guy
hard
because-
to make Undertaker a bad guy.
Yeah,
let's
it
just-
was. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
I want in on this because the fact of the matter is that when that first Undertaker came out, it was something totally different. And it's
Mhm.
all him. Like the amount of work that he put into that character is like he needed to get recognized for that because
Yeah.
that's just
Because when they
phenomenal.
first signed him, he thought the gimmick was a dumb gimmick.
But everybody thought that because it's like where do you go? But I guess he has found a way to do something with that gimmick and he reinvented it like Putty Man.
I
When
think
did he-
also
when did
to
he
be fair
debut?
with that point too is you got to credit Paul Bearer with that too.
Yeah.
Because for the first
Yes.
little while, Undertaker did not speak. Paul
No.
Bearer was the mouthpiece.
Yeah,
And
he
like
never
every
spoke.
time you would see that pasty face with the mustache with the urn going, oh yes,
Yeah.
right?
But he really
But
did a
it's-
good job of making it scary, especially for
Yeah.
the first little bit.
But
Mhm.
it was all strategic. Everything was done purposely. You know what I mean? But then he went to the biker gimmick, and then when he went back to that
The
Dead
pop
Man
was even
gimmick,
bigger.
it was probably the best body of work he ever did or ever had in his career.
That first
That's
return,
why-
yes.
That's why my Undertaker is number 3 for me as well.
Ah, there
so
you go.
good. We
See?
got 2 out of the way right there. But I
So
mean,
there you go.
you are right, and I do think that just the character alone. When did he start? 1989
Something like that, yeah.
as the
Yeah.
Undertaker when he debuted. I mean, think of it. He wrestled 4 decades as a character that's one of the most memorable characters ever. He will never be forgotten in wrestling history.
In wrestling, no, he's going to go down as one of the greatest. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, if they do a Hall of Fame this year, he's going in, right?
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Yeah.
and I agree with that. It's just the fact that his title runs were not memorable. He deserved more, don't get me wrong, but his title runs were not memorable. So for me, I couldn't put him on my list. He's definitely an honorable mention, but that's just my opinion though, right?
Thanks,
Well,
Hogan.
I hate to put it this way, but my list is based on more favoritism than.
I mean,
how
but that's
long
what
the-
you're
that's
allowed
like that.
to,
Yeah,
so-
I know.
Mine
But
is
that's-
favoritism too, but there's
I'm
also
the only one that changed my stipulations.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, everyone was shocked when I said I didn't put Goldberg. The reason I state that is because he was more of a WCW champion for me. You know what I mean? That situation. So anyway,
Well, in your
move
era
on.
of wrestling, he wasn't even in the WWF, so
yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
fair. It's you, right?
My number 3, I'm going more common era, and I'm actually tied number 3 with CM Punk and Brock Lesnar.
See, I knew you were gonna have CM Punk, and like
It's because he's the longest reigning champ of the modern era.
I despise him.
And
I mean, I don't think he's a bad wrestler. I don't like him as a person or
as a human being,
character.
he comes across as a dick.
Yeah,
Completely, 100%. But for him to knock Cena off that pedestal
for sure. And he was a really good wrestler.
and to go almost 500 days with the championship, it's got to mean something, right?
Okay,
like
for sure.
And the same reason is I hate Brock Lesnar as an athlete. Like as a character, I don't like the character of Brock Lesnar. Like
his character is Paul Heyman, basically.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like now, Brock Lesnar's back. And it's some of his better work because he's actually against Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns right now.
Yeah, which is good. I like
which is entertaining. And this is all Paul Heyman's work, obviously. Still, it's all him. But Brock Lesnar, like, yes, he's had a great run. He's probably one of the longest reigning champions of all time, too. He's got to be up there. The only thing with Brock Lesnar is the fact that it's held a lot of other people down. So I couldn't put him higher. But what he's done in the last few years, you can't really argue with the fact that, you know, some of the most longest runs as a champion have been with Brock Lesnar.
To me, this is my take on Brock Lesnar. Just get it out of the way. He's not on my list. But, I mean, the thing I like about him, regardless of his in-ring abilities or anything, he is a little bit too late WWE version of Goldberg, where he was like an unstoppable force that could literally Hulk Hogan. He could F5 Andre the Giant. You know what I mean? He was the guy that the modern style of Hogan, where it was exactly what Vince McMahon liked, a guy that was going to be unstoppable and just go forever. And like his opposition was the baby face, like John Cena. And I mean, it is what it is. I think Brock Lesnar,
I think the thing that hurt him too, his early work, is the fact that he decided to leave at his peak.
Yeah.
Like right when he was about to peak in that match with Goldberg, they had that basically loser leaves town. They both left town. That's when Steve Austin stunners both of them, gives them the finger and tells them to get lost, basically. But like he missed out on a lot of valuable, I guess, time where he could have built his character. He could have built his reputation. He could have built his legacy, basically.
And then he came back, though, and then left again. So,
yeah,
I mean, that didn't help either.
And the dude is literally, what, a couple months older than me.
Yeah, but Johnny, he left.
So you're saying you have a shot.
Yeah,
I have a shot. I have a shot at a comeback.
But JD, did you say you've been watching it recently? Because I saw his recent look, and I'm like, "Yo, this is like not the version."
I kind of like it. It looks
I like his
real.
new with the big beard. He looks a Bushman look, basically.
He doesn't look like a Vince McMahon product.
Yes, it's so weird with the ponytail, though. I'll be honest with you,
but this is like the first time he's reinvented himself. So
yeah, it's something different, and that's why I'm really, really enjoying this run he's having against Roman Reigns. This is the first time I actually want to see Brock Lesnar win the belt.
Yeah. And the fact that Paul Heyman is in full control of both guys and this whole storyline is going to end up being better because there's not 100 hands in this cookie jar.
Based on what I saw, I thought they already had him gone because didn't he snitch on Roman Reigns about WrestleMania or something like that, or one of the
no, they're actually doing a match in the next. I don't know if they could it be done already. I don't know when this is coming out, but they're going to do. There's a match scheduled with Brock and Roman in Saudi Arabia for the championship.
They're going back. They're actually going to go. Oh, that's probably a bad idea.
This could be old news by the time this airs, but
they could still be stuck in Saudi Arabia by the time this airs.
Just want to say that Brock left the company to go into Ultimate Fighting, and he became the heavyweight champ.
Mhm.
That just adds to his legacy because
Yeah.
now you come back to wrestling and you're legit.
So if
You know what I mean?
somebody
You're a
beats,
legit
if somebody
badass.
beats you, you
Yeah.
legitimize somebody else. Like plain and simple.
Yeah.
Unless you're John Cena, then who cares about him?
Who's
Campo,
next?
you're number 2.
All right, my number 2. This is easy. This is easy. Bret Hart. Maybe the most important run ever, close to it. It's definitely something that there's so much controversy around it, and everything that happened, it completely exposed the BS
business
going on in the business, and for those reasons, I think alone it should be here. But on top of the fact that Bret Hart is maybe the best wrestler of all time, he's the best Canadian wrestler of all time, that's for sure. And this was it was so well deserved. Like the garbage that he went through to get here, and then the continual garbage he went through as the champion.
He paid his dues. He paid his dues many times.
He should be a 10-time champion. I'm just gonna say that, and that's the end.
I'll say this: there's no low. I'll be honest with you. I did put Bret Hart on my list. Nothing. It's not nothing against him or anything like that. He's definitely my honorable mentions. I do love him. But yeah, he was well deserved in it and everything. I just
for you living in the U.S., Bret Hart played a different role. He was loved here while he was the biggest heel in the U.S.
He was pretty popular in the U.S.
No, yeah, he was still popular. The Hart Foundation, Owen Hart, it was still big. But I guess maybe because it didn't hit home for me as much. Maybe in that situation, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about him as a wrestler. I'm just
no pun intended.
Quite honest, yeah.
Nice. Okay, Putty, what's your next one?
What's your number 2?
Okay, well, again, cookie cutter. Number 2 for me is Stone Cold Steve Austin. What do you guys?
Fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
All right, my number 2 is The Rock, and it kind of got stale maybe later on in his last run, but the
run he had when he beat CM Punk for the title, that was a bad run. Then he loses the belt
to comeback.
I would also say,
then he loses to Cena at Mania.
Yeah, I would also say that last run just before Brock beat him in 2002. It kind of got a little stale there because I know he got a little disingenuous. He wanted to go out and just
do his thing
or whatever. But that first run, corporate Rock, and then him turning face, that maybe 99, 2000 is probably like the best time to watch.
Okay, so I do have him on my list. And I was waiting for someone else to have him so we could have some kind of a discussion.
But let's lead into my number 2 because mine is tied with Austin and The Rock because you can't have one champion without the other. What they did for each other meant so much. Okay. And that's my number 2 as well. It's tied with Austin and The Rock. So let's get into our Rock discussion.
Here's my thing with The Rock. And maybe let's hold off on Stone Cold for a second. But The Rock, I think the reason I have him at 4, I mean, he's still on my list. But the championship is not ever throughout his career, similar to Undertaker, what defined The Rock. The character of The Rock was bigger than the championship. The difference is he did win it a lot more and hold it a lot longer than Undertaker. I understand that. But if he never won it all, The Rock would still be arguably the biggest wrestler who ever existed.
Like the most entertaining for sure.
In a category with Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan, I think like worldwide, The Rock is like, he's so charismatic. He's one of the greatest talkers who just in Macho Man fashion just spewed pure gibberish, and it was amazing, like absolutely amazing. Like I guarantee you those first couple like phrases he had was just something he said on the spot, and then just everyone liked it, so he just kept saying it.
They get all started with, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Like, what does that have to do with anything,
definitely
right?
Didn't come up with that. Someone just said something and he just yelled that out, and they were like,
I think that just came up organically. Like, I think it came up in a promo one time. They were talking about cooking, and he's like, do you smell what The Rock? Like, it's something that came with The Rock. It just comes organically.
Yeah, his comebacks were like no one else. Him and Chris
he had
Jericho.
the sharpest wit. Yeah.
Well, that's because we're talking about, like he was bigger than the belt itself, but because of the fact that we have a a world champs list, he needs to be on that list for me.
No, that's fair, but I'm
And-
just saying I can have him lower because I feel like that's not what defined him as a wrestler.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that his stuff was so memorable to me, I'm putting him
It
up
needs to be
fair.
on
It's a
the
favorites
list,
list,
and that's
right?
what the
I-
whole favorites list
I
is
agree.
about.
Well,
Yep.
can I break the rules of how we do our list?
No.
Okay.
No, but you're going to do it anyway. So what are you going to say?
Well, I was going to say the thing is if we all get to talk about our number ones, that's pretty.
Well, I'm
much
not on
why-
number one yet, so let's calm
So
down.
number
for a
one's
second.
coming up. So Campo, what's your number one then?
Well, my number one is arguably the person who.
Wait, Johnny, did you go?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
he did.
tied. Rock and Austin for number
got
two.
it.
For
My
me.
Okay,
person
my
is the
bad.
person who revived wrestling, basically single-handedly. He pulled WWE out of the gutter. He's probably the best champion who ever held the belt. He's a fan favorite. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I think the difference between him and The Rock is that Austin wearing that belt was like the sign of it was like showing that the fight against the system. He was the one standing up against it. The Rock never really didn't care about what everyone else was doing.
He was the
just
system.
he was the system. He was The Rock. Everything was about The Rock. Stone Cold was all about fighting back, and him holding that belt was the one
everyman.
he needed to fight, to do what he had to do. And I think that's why it's important.
Well, let me jump in and say this. The thing is with Steve Austin, the reason he got number 2 on my list and this made this list so hard to make was because I loved Steve Austin because he was the edgier side of WWE at that point, because there was like two sides. There was the smooth, cool side of The Rock, and then there was the edgy side of Steve Austin, and it just made for such entertaining television. And that's why he ended up number 1 on my list. I thought just jump over and say it, right?
And number 2, that's why it was number 2 for me. Is like I said, they go hand in hand. It's Rock and Austin, but go ahead. And I agree. Like, I mean, it could be our top 3 is really top 3, no matter which. It's more like a 1A, 1B, 1C.
I'm pretty assuming already what both of your number ones are going to be coming up. But
I think mine and Caps are the same number 1.
The fact that just we have the right guys on this list, so I'm not really arguing about that. I think everyone's list,
and we're giving credit where credit is due as well.
Yeah. Like you have the modern guys. I don't feel as strongly about it, but I think you talking about it kind of makes me understand. Like, yes, they do earn a place on the list. So.
Yeah.
So mine's Bret, and
Here. Same with me.
I didn't know that was coming.
Oh, that's
Big
a
surprise,
shocker.
right?
So obviously it has nothing to do with, like, okay, he was probably one of the best wrestlers ever. It has nothing to do with the fact he's Canadian, but it's just the fact that we've ushered into a new era, and we're getting away from that Hogan era, and we're starting to recognize the workers, and we're starting to recognize the talent and the fact that there are wrestlers out there that deserve a title run. And the fact that we're starting with Bret, who probably deserved it, like you said, Campos, way before he actually got it. To me, he is number 1. And, after that, you start seeing guys, like
smaller
Shawn,
guys, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, like that's my explanation.
Can I just, based on our list, I think we all have people kind of that are synonymous with being important to the title. Like, no disrespect to Shawn Michaels or anything, who was a great worker, but he didn't make any of our lists to the title.
No, he didn't do anything for the title. The thing is, with going back to the Bret Hart point, every time Bret Hart lost that belt, it was to controversy. He lost the belt to Bob Backlund the first time he lost the belt. Then he loses the belt to Yokozuna, who immediately loses the belt to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He loses the belt to Shawn Michaels in controversial fashion at WrestleMania 12 in the Iron Man match, and they go to overtime. He loses the belt again to Shawn Michaels at that famous Montreal Screwjob. Like, every time Hart has lost the belt, there's always been controversy behind that loss.
And like I said, he not only deserved better than that, he deserved to be a 10-time champion. He deserved to be the greatest champion ever.
If you ask me, Bret should have held the belt longer. Like, his
until
runs,
Stone Cold.
Yeah.
If I can chime in there,
Mhm.
everybody who wrestled Bret came out
superstar.
better than when they went into that
100%.
match.
He sold and wrestled like nobody.
But see
A
that
huge
going back
contrast to Hogan.
yes.
Except for maybe when he wrestled Warrior. But everybody that went into a match with wrestling Bret came out better than going in.
I would
Bret
just,
Hart
like,
legitimized every one of his opponents.
Imagine a future where we could have had Austin, The Rock, Bret Hart, and Michaels of like constantly just battling for the championship. That's a world.
See, that's the thing. Going back to what we were saying about Bret never battled Austin for the championship. It was. I don't think it was ever for the belt. There was that famous. But imagine,
match.
Like
if he stayed in WWE.
Yeah,
you could have had all those matches. You could have had matches between The Rock, three-way match between The Rock, Stone.
Imagine The Rock and Hart and The Rock. Like
holy crap! Imagine like a match between The Rock and Hart, like for the title. Like, that would have
fantasy
been
booking right there. Like it's
holy crap.
But yeah, and I think too, every time he lost the belt, it was on a request of Vince McMahon because Vince McMahon wanted to get the next person over. Like I said, going back, he lost to Bob Backlund because Vince McMahon thought it would be funny to put a 44-year-old man as champion when now a 44-year-old man is champion, right? But back then, Bob Backlund was like old compared to the rest of the younger generation that was there.
I mean, in fairness, let's not be too hard on him because I have him on honorable mentions. I mean,
Bob
Backlund was a pretty decent wrestler.
Not the
back in the day, yes.
In the original.
Yeah, you're talking about his first run, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, even like I said, even that match, he lost the belt to Yokozuna, not realizing Yokozuna was gonna lose the belt 30 seconds after that to Hogan.
But that was their
Hart had no idea
because Hart refused to give the belt to Hogan. So Vince McMahon's way out of it was, I'm just gonna make Yokozuna lose the belt to Hogan then.
Yokozuna should go on the honorable mentions list.
I mean, I think like as far as like big men go, he was a pretty good wrestler. Like for not being that mobile, he was pretty good
and entertaining.
And as far as a play on E Honda goes, he did it well.
E Honda, who was, fun fact, not even Japanese. He's Roman Reigns' cousin.
Yep.
I did want to say, because I know I didn't have Bret Hart on my list and everything, but I'm sitting here and there's one thing that I wanted to say when it comes to Bret Hart that I enjoyed so much, and I realized why he didn't go on my list and why my list looks so different. Is when I look at my list, I'm looking at what is the star-studded, the whole, the flashiness of it. You know what I mean? What was put out there for that. What makes Bret Hart so special in that way is he was never presented in that way. He was presented as a wrestler that knew how to wrestle. And the thing is I'll even use the marble as a thing. You can like Robert Downey Jr., you can like Chris Evans, you can like all these people that play the Avengers, but you would not have it without Chris Feige. And he doesn't get the love that he deserves in that situation.
Kevin Feige.
What did I say? I say Chris. Anyway, I'm done my name. Anyway,
there's so many Chris's.
I'm messing up so badly. But anyway, but Kevin Feige, yeah. My point to the whole thing is when I was younger, I didn't see it that way because I didn't understand what he was as a technical wrestler. They didn't put him out there that much. The only thing that always appealed to me when it came to Bret Hart and why I loved him so much was how kind he was to his fans. I always wanted to be one of those kids that got his glasses.
That got the sunglasses?
Yes.
And Bret Hart was raised different. He wasn't, those other wrestlers were brought up to they weren't going to be wrestlers. Bret Hart was born a wrestler. They were training him since a child. He came there to wrestle. He didn't come there to be famous. He wanted to be a wrestler. He wanted to be a title holder.
The Rock refers to himself as the people's champion, the people's champion. In my eyes, Bret Hart was the people's champion.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, so was Stone Cold.
Yeah, but I mean, but like
The
Rock took the moniker first. But I mean, Bret Hart was that everyman, that hardworking. Like I rely on my hard work, not just talent and my skills, but my hard work to get me to where I want to go.
Every match, he looked like he took a beating. Yeah. Like he
looked like he died at the end of every match.
For that match, so hard. Like you could put the guy, and
he was one of the best he was one of the best sellers without making it look like he was overselling.
You could put him in a 6-man tag match with 5 other terrible wrestlers, and somehow that match would end up looking good. Bret Hart's other brother who sucks.
Which one? Bruce, Keith?
Yeah, the one where they had the 3. It was 3-on-3. I don't even remember what it was, but It's like,
And
he
like
could
the mom's
sell
like
anything.
throwing the towel in the
Yeah. They could sell anything. And
Diana's crying in the back.
I mean, I'm gonna segue this into my honorable mention.
Go for it.
So this is gonna be a weird one. I'm just erasing all my other ones. I don't care. This is the only one I want to talk about.
Mhm.
And to me, in terms of more modern wrestling, this is one of the most important ones. It's Eddie Guerrero. I feel like they gave him the reason he holds the belt was out of respect for everything he did. They were like, you deserve to win. Eddie Guerrero was one of the greatest workers in the history of wrestling. He helped launch the luchadors in American wrestling to like superstardom. Between him and his camp with Chavo and all those guys, Juventud, and I think it's just, it was to see him win that is like a borderline like I'm gonna cry moment. Like I know like he was like the cheater kind of guy, but he deserved that belt like nobody else.
100%. I completely agree with that. In that same era, that same vein, Kurt Angle's run as champion towards the end of his first run with WWE, I think that needs to be acknowledged too. Like,
I think that
fair. Was like some of his best work was towards that end of that first run with WWE. And when he first went, and some of Kurt Angle's best work was in TNA. Some of the even better than WWE, but you could see glimpses of that towards the end of that first run there. Like after he shaved his head and he became this serious actual wrestler, like his match against Brock Lesnar, the more Brock tried that shooting star press and landed on his head and almost died. But like, I mean, up until that point, that match was like, it was something else. It's like something you've never seen before. It had high flying with such high technical ability, like two collegiate wrestlers. Like
he suffered so many injuries, and the result of that was an addiction and
painkiller and alcohol.
And it hurt him so bad. He was a really good wrestler. He was on my honorable mentions, but like I said, I'll just let you guys bring up the rest of them.
Well,
his run
don't forget about his series of matches with that wrestler whose name we're not really allowed to.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
You know,
which he needs to go on, regardless of what he did as a champion, he needs to go on that list too.
Yes. Chris Benoit.
I'm torn about that, but yeah.
I mean, I can make an argument. Can I just hold on, buddy? I know you want to talk. Chris Jericho united the titles.
Yes.
And I think
he beat The Rock and Austin on the same night.
That is a special moment in WWF.
Yes.
He did unite the titles.
We need to do an episode just on Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to just say that I didn't even have him on the list.
Chris Jericho on here.
Okay, continue.
He'd probably join. I'll be honest.
Sorry, buddy.
Do it. He's a dude, man. This guy like.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
I love how we're talking about Kurt Angle, and we don't mention the one thing that's actually realistic to the whole situation. He's literally a gold medal wrestler for real,
with a broken neck.
With a broken freaking neck.
But I've actually seen the video of actually him wrestling at the Olympics, and it's people don't realize that when he came in saying I'm a real wrestler, and like even if we want to make this South Park joke or anything like that, he really was a real wrestler.
That's not wrestling.
Yeah, it's not wrestling.
That's not wrestling.
But it's amazing.
They broke his jaw.
It's amazing that quick transition he made from what he was doing before to now, because he really didn't have that much experience being a pro wrestler.
No, but he learned so fast because of that raw talent that he had.
Yeah.
And I love how he used that too. He always used that as thing like, oh, I'm a real wrestling wrestler.
I'm a real boy.
I'm going to mention one person, and I know it wasn't recognized as a title change at the time, but I think recently they said it was. So I'm going to say Andre, just for the fact that it's Andre. I know he only had the belt for like 1 second, but the fact of the matter is, we're talking about Andre the Giant here, and this is.
I feel like his presence deserves just to be spoken of.
It's the fact that he became he beat Hogan for like in very controversial fashion.
Yeah.
But the fact that he got that belt for like a second
and sold it to the $1 Million Man.
And just to it's just all
DiBiase.
Yeah. Well, DiBiase, even Slaughter.
Okay, see, there you go. That was the honorable mention. Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. My honorable mention, the only one I wanted to mention was literally what you just said. I wanted to mention Sergeant Slaughter because of one reason. Oh my God, yes. Okay, that's an American thing.
How
It
did
was just,
you know?
that was just it. I literally had the G.I. Joe.
Meanwhile, I'm wearing the Keswick Finest tonight.
I literally had the Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joe action figure. I carried it with me everywhere because I thought it was just the coolest thing just to have a wrestler I watched on TV in that small, because I had the big rubbery figures, but you couldn't like make them like move. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, the G.I. Joes had the rubber bands in them. And
they had the
and their legs would fall off.
So
if you twist them too much.
I had Sergeant Slaughter at doing like chokeholds on Cobra Commander every single day, just like, you ain't real fighter. You know, I mean, I was doing. Sergeant Slaughter literally was pinning every single.
Can I bring something up?
I had.
I'll say Sergeant's before. Sorry, Campo, before you go, but Sergeant Slaughter was one of those first transition guys to transition wrestling, but also into other media. But sorry, Campo, was that what you were going to say?
I just want to say that my longest reigning champion of action figure wrestling in my bedroom as a child was Kevin Costner's Robin Hood. Thank you.
What the hell?
Who'd he be?
Because exactly like what the type of wrestling we watched. I like the guy who doesn't look like he's the wrestler, who's like the everyman who shouldn't win the title and winning the title. So that he won.
But like I said, times. I need an answer. Who'd he beat?
Oh crap! I think it was The Thing.
Okay. Because if you said 89 Batman, there's no way that's going to happen.
Well, actually, him and 89 Batman were friends.
Okay, so they were a tag team.
That's actually, I'm not lying. That's actually true. And it was, the team was him, 89 Batman, and 80s Cyclops with the light up visor with the X on it. They were a team.
I could never do that.
And they went against He-Man's Triclops.
Yeah,
Lockjaw.
I could never do that because if you remember, He-Man and Thundercats, they all had the same size. The G.I. Joes were really small, but I was like, they were way better articulation. So
they were the luchadors of the.
They literally could do the wrestling moves those other ones couldn't do, and I was like, these are better wrestlers when they could literally do a figure 4 leg lock. But you may break the rubber band.
You know who he beat for the championship? It was the guy from Gargoyles, the main guy from Gargoyles.
Wait, how late in the 90s was this? Because I'm gonna be honest with you,
this was last week, buddy.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about? This is right now before we film this.
He's over there just like, Batman wins, bitch.
No, Kevin Costner wins.
Kevin Costner wins.
Wait.
It's like that scene from Spaceballs. No, sir, I didn't get you playing with your dolls again, sir.
You said Robin Hood. Was there ever a moment where it was Waterworld and Robin Hood? Kevin
I didn't
Costner
have a Waterworld figure.
I don't think anybody had the water.
Anyway,
Caps is just up there like looking like, what's wrong with you?
Caps is thinking like, this is a Caps move. Where's my box of figures that I can bust on now and show everybody?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, nothing's gonna beat this bad boy right here.
Don't tempt him, okay? I don't want this.
Put it in a better light.
I mean, I'm not like interested in getting any sort of wrestling figures, but the only one I would ever consider getting would be an old school Undertaker one.
If I ever found that, I would buy that too. As of now, I have X-Pac 6.
Nice.
And what was the other one? I have Stunning Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones. I have the box set from WrestleMania. I forgot which WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania Hollywood. It's both The Rock and the Ric Flair box set. And I have classic Razor Ramon, and I have Scott Hall.
Nice.
I will say the only thing I never owned I was tempted to buy is I saw they had He-Man / WWE figures in the store.
You can still find them.
Yeah, they're still at Walmart.
Wow, I'm so tempted to buy one of those just because they are kind of cool.
The only one that would work is Triple H. He looks like a He-Man character with that big torso and the little legs. That's the only one I think would work on that one. But yeah, anybody have any other honorable mentions in this list? We didn't mention Savage yet.
Well, I'm surprised Putty never said Rey Mysterio.
I mean, no. The see thing is, I was very happy when he won it. Like, it was so amazing to see someone like it. But honestly, I'm gonna be very honest with you. It didn't feel realistic. It's nothing against Rey Mysterio. I love
none of his title wins felt realistic.
It was like a sympathy win.
Yeah. And that's what made it sad. Is I loved him as a wrestler. But when they put him up, like when he had like like whenever he did like his move on Big Guy, I was like, dude, really, you're feeling that? Like,
Big Show's arm weighed as much as him.
Yeah, exactly. So I could never, even though I did
Yeah.
love him as a wrestler, I could never take it seriously. Honestly, it sucks to say that.
Okay, so what about if we counterpoint the whole Undertaker thing? Where do we think Kane falls in that
He's
section?
in my,
I
He's in
think
mine.
Kane
Best debut.
winning the title, especially masked Kane,
Mhm.
masked Kane
Masked
is important because he was such a massive villain that giving him the title was like was a lot of heat, and that was good. I like
it was
that.
like somebody who could finally stop
Yeah.
the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Like,
But speaking of heat, I was so mad about the whole storyline because the thing is he was supposed to have a burnt face. The Undertaker burnt his face, and when they revealed his face, I'm like, dude,
when they
literally
revealed his face and it was just Isaac Yankem DDS, I was like,
like
They were
where's
like,
the
isn't he
burnt
the
face?
dentist?
or fake Diesel.
Like, where was the burnt face? Did everyone forget that apparently Undertaker burnt his face and we suddenly
How was it that he couldn't speak and then all of a sudden could speak?
Yeah, right.
I want to
'Cause it was
ask
in-
this.
Yeah, I was like,
I have a real question. So speaking of Isaac Yanko, so I watched a bunch of matches, obviously, and he was popular when I was a kid. Well, not popular, but
He was around.
yeah, like the Trash Man and whatever.
Duke the dumpster.
Repo Man. But anyways, his
Repo Man's the
teeth
guy
were
from Demolition.
so effed up that I honestly, like, seeing it now in HD, I'm actually convinced the reason they gave him that character is because he actually had bad teeth in real life. Like, I don't think those are fake teeth.
Well, I think they just needed somebody. The whole purpose of Isaac Yankem was, I think, Bret Hart knocked out Jerry's teeth, and Jerry Lawler went to his dentist, and that was Isaac Yankem.
Yeah, I mean,
And he just all of a sudden, okay, you're going to start wrestling now.
he could have been worse. He could have played IRS.
True.
oh my
I
God.
still like IRS.
IRS
Who
was
doesn't
such a-
like IRS?
I mean,
It's the greatest.
he was hated so much, but it was such a campy character.
I'm telling you, IRS is going to come back to AEW, and he's going to lead a stable with his two sons, Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas, and it's going to happen.
I hope it happens.
But it's just like Rey Mysterio, how can you take a guy seriously in a suit and tie?
Yeah, but he had cut off sleeves, though,
Oh, yeah,
And he had
that
a
changes
mask.
everything.
and suspenders.
Yeah, and glasses. Don't forget the glasses, too.
He used to hit people with his briefcase. So
Hey, he had the first Money in the Bank, right? Technically,
right.
if you really want to think about it.
we still going on with the honorable mentions?
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it.
Yokozuna.
Yeah.
We did
Yeah,
already
yeah.
say
No,
that.
no, but
wherever you've
I
been.
meant like we talked about him like losing the belt to Hulk, but I don't think we actually talked about Yokozuna. The
Yeah,
fact of the
Campbell
matter
touched on
is-
it, that he was, for a big man, he was able to move. He was pretty
Especially
agile.
when you look at the history up to that point of big men, because like later on now the big guys can wrestle, but at
Mhm.
that point none of them could wrestle, and Yokozuna could actually do like he
Yeah.
gained the weight for that role. Like he was already big, but he
Nah.
kept eating. He got bigger and bigger and bigger as he went along.
No, Yokozuna left a bad taste in my mouth because every wrestling friend I had was like, dude, you're not going to do what Yokozuna does to us in the corner of the ring, are you?
But he puts on a thong and starts stink facing people.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that was Rikishi.
Same
His
guy.
brother.
Yeah, that was
Wasn't that his
Rikishi.
brother?
Never mind. Yeah,
No, I think they're
he's
cousins.
right.
They're all related. It's
Yeah.
all part of the NYE family. There's another episode for us.
They are big butt guys.
Some-
There's
Samoan
enough
legacy.
of them to do a whole list of that.
Yeah, there's a Samoan legacy episode coming. Wrestling families. We'll do a heart one.
I got superstar Billy Graham, man. I mean,
Mhm. I have.
the only reason
if
why I
you-
got him, I mean, it's kind of limited what he did, but the fact of the matter is that, his portrayal, his character was kind of like a stepping
Well,
stone.
Hulk
for
Hogan
somebody-
stole his
Yeah.
his thing. Like Hulk Hogan is a mixture of Billy Graham and Jesse Ventura.
Yes, yeah, and Billy Graham was pretty much like kind of an innovator in terms of the look and all that stuff. So that his charisma
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So he's really good at that stuff.
Yeah,
So I thought I'd throw him in there.
I mean, you got to go there. You also got to mention someone. If you got to go there, you got to go with the first champ. You got to put in Buddy Rogers there.
Yeah.
Not many
Yeah.
people know Buddy
I mean,
Rogers. But then
if
again,
you're-
we're just going to start listing everyone,
yeah.
right?
I
Great
got off mine.
Khali.
Yeah, right.
No, like did Gilbert ever win?
No, he was a light heavyweight champ for a while.
Gilbert. That was my favorite. His walkout entrance is
With the
like,
guys with the sparklers.
yeah, they're all just like
Screw you guys. I hated Goldberg.
So
But
did
it was
Goldberg,
such a good idea. If
but
I
it was
was
so
WWE,
over. Well, I mean, Goldberg was apparently at the time, Goldberg was just a ripoff of Stone Cold. So if they said, if you're going to rip off Stone Cold, we're going to rip off Goldberg. And it's like,
if you did Gilbert a little bit right, where he actually was a decent wrestler, but it's still like a joke.
he could have been like R-Truth is now.
Yeah, exactly. He lasted for like one episode of Raw and it was over.
But he still makes appearances every now and
I
then.
love me some Gilbert.
Goldberg.
RVD.
Yeah. When he beat, we got to throw John Cena in there?
No, we don't.
I mean, I think we have to based on
No,
how
we don't.
long he was, but
I can't see him.
Of
Honestly,
all the people that we
see
don't
him.
like here, I think John Cena is the one I'm not willing to accept. I will
I
take Triple
can't
H
see him,
any
no,
day. I'm
no.
not taking John Cena.
Yeah.
I know. I'm
Only-
just saying I can't see him.
I would agree with that. I think Vince McMahon was trying to recapture the whole Hulk Hogan thing with Cena.
Mm.
And
It was forced on to people. That's my
Actually,
well,
issue with
especially
that.
the fact that at this point everybody's wise to the business as to what's going on. With Hogan, it was a different era because nobody knew what was going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. It's
With
only when
Cena,
look
you
back
know.
now that yes,
Yeah.
honestly,
exactly.
what's good about Cena is his charity work he does with Make-A-Wish Foundation and his
As a
movie
human
stuff.
being, please don't
As a
get me
human
wrong.
being,
He's probably
yeah.
a fantastic person,
That's
but
what I'm
as
saying.
champion, it's
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have Daniel Bryan than
No, but what I'm saying is you take him out of wrestling,
Then,
what he
John
does in
Cena.
real life as far as an actor, as about as a person,
oh yeah,
he's
100%.
better than that. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I want people to understand John Cena. I am a fan of John Cena, the real person, not John Cena, the wrestler, because there was too much of it and everything. So yeah.
John Cena pacemaker. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And they're coming out with a series too, and I can't wait for it. So
Maybe we'll see something.
still don't buy him as an actor.
Nope.
he's not bad. At least he's
He's
got a
not
long
good
way
either.
to go.
I take
But he laughs
Batista
himself.
over John Cena.
Oh yeah, but see, the thing is, at least he understands. He puts himself in more humorous roles. At least I feel like he understands. He's not
I
a serious
think
actor.
he buys into the fact that he's a joke, and I don't mean that in like a bad way. I mean that as like he understands that wrestling is like kind of a funny thing, and his character is kind of a funny character, and he should be playing that, and he does it well. He's just not a good actor.
He literally does. There's a video online you can watch of him where he actually talks about his meme and actually just flows with it. He's like, dude, I'm all about it. He doesn't care.
His stuff on the talk show circuit for the Suicide Squad is better than him in the Suicide Squad.
He, as a human being, he's actually a funny human being.
Yeah.
I don't know why it doesn't translate to the movies because like I just think everything he does feels forced when he's
because
acting.
It is. It is in wrestling. It feels like Cap said too earlier. It's forced down our throats.
John, the only time I could say that I would say that I loved him as an actor would be in the movie Sisters, because I feel like that was the one time the actor.
Yes, but I did like him, but he's like less than 3 minutes of screen time.
No, I get it, but that's my whole point though. That's the only time I could say it. That's what I'm saying. I feel
was
like
that was that one he did with Michael Key there, Playing with Fire?
That's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
Never seen it.
Don't ever watch it.
But my point to the whole thing is I feel like when they cast him, they want to cast him as more as a muscle, and I'm like, dude, just let him do the funny parts. You know what I mean? He's a funny person, and they won't let him do it.
I'll be fair, his comedic timing has improved, like especially in Suicide Squad. His comedic timing was a little, just like that scene where he's just standing there in his tidy whities there, and he's just like, look at
his best comedy ever is from Trainwreck, the Amy Schumer movie.
I bet I need to see that. Yeah,
where he has like a little wiener, and I don't know, it's just so funny.
I'm in no rush to watch any of these movies.
No,
Nick hasn't seen any movies past 2000. So
I you know what? Just for the hell of it, because I don't really watch a lot of modern wrestling, but I will throw AJ Styles in that because of the fact that he deserves a run, and the fact that he's doing what he's doing in his 40s. Good on him.
So, as a modern wrestling guy for you, how do you feel about Sheamus?
Who?
Me?
Yeah.
I can't stand Sheamus. Like, I'm sure as a person he's fine, but like his character is just his character is as vanilla as his skin.
Daniel Bryan is the better version of Sheamus.
Yes. Even though Daniel Bryan lost to him in 18 seconds.
You know what? I'm gonna say one thing. Cesaro deserves a title run.
Yes, agreed.
What anybody says.
Agreed. I agree with
He's probably one of
Cesaro.
he's probably one of the best wrestlers ever.
Yeah.
Um,
He
And I don't watch a lot of-
if Cesaro were around in the Bret Hart era, I think him and Hart would have had some tremendous feuds.
Yep.
I think there's a better
Cesaro
chance.
can wrestle anyone, in my eyes. And the fact of the matter is, like, I just watch the way he's
being wasted.
treated, just wasted. And
There's a
that's
better
why-
chance that Alexa Bliss gets a title run before him.
Yeah.
Most likely. There's a better chance Nia Jax gets a title run before Cesaro.
And I'm gonna be and honestly, like, I actually been watching a lot of AEW as of late.
Mhm.
Cesaro, wherever to go to AEW, he would probably be a champ there.
Actually, can I
Because
just
he
say something?
deserves- because
I
he
don't want
deserves
him
it.
to go there because they're already getting bloated.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But like AEW though, at least they know how to use the talent properly, as opposed to WWE. This is the formula. This is the formula that you're sticking to it. They let their performers run a little bit more free. There's a character right now in AEW, Malachi Black, Tommy End, was absolutely overshadowed in WWE as Aleister Black. This character could have been the next Undertaker type of character. And he was completely useless in W. And now he's like one of the biggest crowd favorites in AEW.
Yeah, I will say this: the fact that they have their own creative control, I guess, or being able to put their own spin on things, is really cool.
But they also have a little bit more
But-
freedom with their promos,
Yeah,
as opposed to if Vince doesn't like, he'll rip a promo 10 minutes before the show.
yeah. But the only thing is, and this is what, just adding to what Campos is saying, you're going to see quite a few disgruntled wrestlers there because they are not going to be able to get the run that they want to get because it's just so bloated.
Yeah.
So
I think
Some of the guys though, they are building in the right direction. People like Jungle Boy, people like Darby Allin,
But-
Darby Allin paired with Sting is one of the
Is-
greatest
is
things
great.
out there, because Sting takes a backseat role, but he's mentored. So you have the star power of Sting, but Darby Allin is allowed to shine.
And Darby Allin is a better wrestler now than Sting ever was.
yeah, but at the end of the day, guys,
Oh.
there's only one world champ.
Stone Cold.
No, you know what I mean? Like,
No,
there's only one person.
Okay,
that
yes.
can hold the title.
It's right now it's Kenny Omega.
Well, listen, I think if you're smart in AEW, what you're gonna do as a really good wrestler is latch onto another really good wrestler and start a feud with them. And regardless if you ever become a title shot, you make your feud so memorable that people want to watch your matches without anything being on the line. That's the best thing you could do in a bloated system, is just try to find
Yeah.
someone else.
I
that you
just-
can have
If they're
crazy
not
matches.
careful, because now there's talks that they're signing Wyatt and Strowman and all them. If they're not careful, it's going to end up like the way WCW was, where too much, too fast, and not letting the younger
And-
guys.
Similar to WCW, what we're seeing right now is a really freewheeling company that's allowing people to have all their hands in it, and that's how WCW got out of control.
Mhm. Because right now on the roster on AEW, he's feuding with he's actually sided with Taz, and he has the potential to be a young Rock, which is Ricky Starks. He is talented. He's got the charisma. He's got that similar look to The Rock. He has the mic skills, and he's very, very young. And if they don't handle him properly, they could lose someone like that.
I don't know a lot of the talent there, but
There's a lot of it.
Yeah.
no, there's a lot, and they only have like 4 pay-per-views a year or something.
Yeah,
like
only
that.
4.
But
But
it
the
makes
thing
it
is, too,
better.
Dynamite. Some of those Dynamite shows makes it feel like it's a big show. They know how to build a big show.
But you want to sell your weekly show, because if you keep people watching your weekly show, that's where the money is, right? The pay-per-view, having only 4 pay-per-views, guarantee that your buy rate is going to be good as long as the product you put
You want those.
weekly
You
is
want
good.
those advertising dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel as though they're gonna fall into that trap where the way WCW did when they threw on the free match of Goldberg versus Hogan on a Nitro instead of putting it on an important pay-per-view.
To be fair, they don't just throw it on without warning. They'll give you a build for it, because they're going to say 4 weeks out, they're going to tell you, hey, you're going to have this match. and they're going to build to it, and you're going to want to watch it. Like,
I mean, original early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s Raws were giving you title matches all the time, huge title matches all the time.
didn't mean anything because they were hot-shotting that title like it was nobody's business, though.
They hot-shotted all of the titles. That was an issue too. But
And there were too many of them.
They were selling like crazy.
There were
put
too many
WCW
titles
out of business.
Like, I mean, right now they have a really good young. They just had him beat former what's his name, Rusev there, Miro, and it's Sammy Guevara. Young up, and he's they call him one of the four pillars of the company because he's going to be one of the guys that's going to carry the company forward into the future.
So who are they? Tell us the four pillars.
The four pillars, I think it's right now it's Sammy Guevara. Sorry? Hangman Page is the other one. It's Jungle Boy and Darby Allin. And these are
Luchasaurus is freaking badass too, man. I think
Luchasaurus was originally part of the Wyatt family before Luke Harper came in.
I heard it was on. I heard it was on a reality TV show before too.
Yeah,
but like he's pretty damn athletic, and
yeah, for a big man, he can move. But but Jungle Boy, it's hard to believe that Jungle Boy is Luke Perry's son.
I was just about to say that. Luke, that's Luke Perry's son. I couldn't believe that when I found out the other day.
Jack Perry.
What the hell is that? Oh gosh.
I love how you guys thought that was me. I'm literally just sitting here, and everyone that's watching this is like, what the hell are they laughing about?
We could always save the AEW talk for another time, but
I have no idea. I'm gonna have to watch them so I can get in that conversation with you guys. I have no idea. So
I'm honestly willing to come back to wrestling, but only for AEW.
Yeah,
that's watching. By the way,
AEW is on TNT. Wednesday nights.
I don't have like cable. I'm gonna have to find out how I can watch it.
Watch Wrestling.Uno.
I think it's like Dynamite on Wednesdays and something on Friday. Rampage.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. So whoever they can't put on Dynamite, they're putting on Rampage. So they're doing a good job of trying to get everybody airtime, basically. And they showcase that young talent every week. So that's the one thing it has. They acknowledge the younger talent, whereas WCW did not acknowledge. It was all NWO all the time.
Yeah.
He has a Rey Mysterio match every now and then, but yeah, and a Chris Jericho match. Man of 1,004 holds. 1,004 holds.
1,004.
Right, number 3, armbar. Number 4, armbar. Number 5, armbar. Go look it up. Chris Jericho reading. That's where the first list started. But on that note, guys, if we have no more honorable mentions on this episode, we'll wrap it up here. And we'll thank you all for joining us. You'll find the description for these two guys down in the box below. Putty Man, check out his channel. Putty recently changed it over to Putty, right?
Yes, it's now Putty. Just Putty, Putty. Simple, easy, not hard to find.
Campo.reviews. He's the host of RLG Cast. You'll see me every now and then on there. You'll see those guys. We'll see them all. Go check out you guys should have a new 5 for Talking soon, no? About the new season?
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't watch it, I'm going to put you on the list.
That's it. Oh, crap. You just made the list. My little floral notebook. And Caps is always Caps. Espresso bar somewhere in the city.
I'm all over social media.
Oh, yeah.
He means he's literally on top of the social media.
He sits on his phone because he never uses it.
He sleeps on the social media building.
You know that little ghost in the Snapchat? He is the ghost because he's never around.
At the end of They Live, the satellite that Roddy Piper shoots, that's Nick.
That's Nick. He's a satellite dish.
Yeah. He sits on the building holding the internet just like from the IT crowd.
Obey.
Exactly. Social media.
Social media, Nick. That's him. Muscles Marinara. On that note, guys, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.